camera glides through dense tropical jungle. Sounds of insects, dripping water, muffled rustling. Suddenly, a sharp radio crackle. A voice whispers, "Command, this is Delta 26, position secure." Silence. Then, hell, bursts of AK-47 fire, explosions, screams. What happened? A mistake, an accidental signal, a transmission that should never have occurred. In the next 30 minutes, witness how a single second of oversight transformed a routine patrol into massacre. How life-saving technology became betraying weapon. How an entire platoon was exposed, surrounded, and destroyed by an error no one noticed until it was too late. The impossible is not just surviving. It is understanding how war kills through the smallest details. The story begins now. Vietnam, April 1968. The Tet Offensive just redefined the war. Cities burned, bases were invaded. The illusion of American victory evaporated. What seemed like limited campaign became brutal conflict, without front lines, without clear rules, without visible end. In the northern part of the country, near the Laos border, the jungles are green labyrinths where trees rise 40 meters. Canopies block the sun even at noon, humidity suffocates. Temperature exceeds 38 degrees Celsius. The ground rots beneath layers of dead leaves. Rains transform trails into mud. Every step is a fight against vegetation, terrain, insects, snakes, disease, an invisible enemy. Here, the Viet Cong dominates. They know every tree, every stream, every natural trap. They build complex tunnels, hide entire arsenals beneath apparently peaceful villages, move without sound. For the Americans, patrolling these jungles is walking in territory that observes you, hunts you, kills you when it decides. The fear is physical. It penetrates skin. Every soldier knows the jungle belongs to the enemy. Survival depends on silence, discipline, invisibility. A single mistake, and you die. A single sound out of place, and everyone dies. This is the rule that keeps alive those who last more than 6 months. The rule that, on that April day, was broken. 2nd Platoon Delta Company, 1st Infantry Battalion, consists of 32 men. Most are under 22 years old. They came from Iowa, Texas, California, New York. Workers, students, farmers, young men who answered recruitment or were drafted, trained on frozen bases in the United States, sent to tropical hell without real preparation. The commander is 2nd Lieutenant Mark Sullivan, 24 years old, graduated from West Point 6 months ago. First real combat mission. Sullivan is intelligent, disciplined, dedicated, but young, inexperienced. He trusts the manuals too much, the orders, the protocols. The jungle does not respect manuals. Beside him, Sergeant James O'Reilly commands in practice. 31 years old, 2 tours in Vietnam, face marked by shrapnel scars, voice hoarse from chronic smoking. O'Reilly knows jungle, knows Viet Cong, knows death. He survived because he learned the basic rule, absolute silence. No unnecessary radio, no conversations, no lit cigarettes, no sudden movements. Total invisibility. He trains the rookies, punishes infractions, maintains discipline. Because he knows, one mistake kills everyone. Among the soldiers, Specialist David Chin stands out. 20 years old, son of Chinese immigrants, raised in San Francisco. Volunteer. He wanted to prove patriotism. Serve the country that welcomed his family. Now he carries 23 extra kilograms on his back. PRC-25 radio. A 1.20 meter antenna rising above his head, like a flag, signaling exactly where he is. Chun is RTO, radio telephone operator, the most important and most dead man in the patrol. RTOs last less. Statistically, RTOs die first. Viet Cong trained shooters to identify the antenna, aim at the operator, kill communication before everything. Chin knows this. Everyone knows. But someone needs to carry the radio. Someone needs to maintain contact with artillery, with medical evacuation helicopters, with command. Without radio, the platoon is blind, deaf, dead. So Chun carries. Back curved under weight, heavy breathing, constant sweat. And fear. Fear that the antenna betrays position. That enemy sees first. That bullet comes before he notices. Justified fear. Fear that materializes. The mission is reconnaissance patrol. Deadly routine disguised as standard operation. Command detected Viet Cong movement near abandoned village 15 kilometers north. Second platoon must investigate, confirm enemy presence, report, do not engage. Simple, dangerous, potentially fatal. Sullivan gathers the men before dawn. Short briefing. Route traced on outdated map. Coordinates noted. Radio frequencies verified. Radio silence except emergencies or arrival at objective. Standard. O'Reilly adds his own instructions. Disperse formation, 5-meter intervals. No conversation. Hand signals only. Weapons locked until contact. Absolute discipline. Chun checks equipment for the 1,000th time. Radio on, correct frequency, full batteries, handset secure. Antenna folded to reduce profile during movement. Everything according to protocol. Everything perfect. Everything useless if something goes wrong. They depart at 5 in the morning. Diffuse light filtering through tree canopy. Low fog covering ground. They move slowly, each step measured. Eyes scanning vegetation. Ears alert to any abnormal sound. The jungle is alive. Birds sing, monkeys scream. Insects buzz. Constant noise that masks human movement but also hides enemy. 3 hours of walking. 10 kilometers covered. No contact. Just jungle, heat, accumulating fatigue. Chun feels the radio's weight digging into shoulders. Straps cutting skin even through uniform. Hips hurt, legs tremble, but he continues. Always continues. Because stopping means delaying. Delay means exposing. Exposing means dying. At noon, they stop for rest. 5 minutes. Water, quick check, silence maintained. Sullivan consults map. Confirms position with O'Reilly. 5 kilometers from objective. 2 hours. Everything according to plan. Everything normal. Everything about to collapse. Afternoon advances. Jungle gets denser. Vegetation more close. Visibility reduced to meters. Movement becomes crawling. Progress becomes agony. Sullivan decides to communicate with command. Position update. Protocol requires. Chun prepares radio. Antenna extended. Handset in hand, awaiting order. Sullivan whispers coordinates. Chun transmits. Brief. Coded. Professional. Command confirms reception. Orders proceed. Transmission ended. 30 seconds. Fast. Clean. Deadly. Because what Chun does not know, what no one knows, is that the PRC-25 radio has a flaw. Rare flaw, intermittent, impossible to predict. Sometimes, after transmission, the transmit button jams partially. Not completely. Just enough to keep channel open. Microphone active. Transmitting everything. Conversation, sounds, movement. Everything. And no one notices. No indicator. No alert. No signal. Just open transmission. Silent. Treacherous. And that is exactly what happens. After Chen's transmission, the button jams. Millimetrically. Channel open. Everything that happens near the radio is now being transmitted, not to American command, to everyone on the frequency, including Viet Cong listening, monitoring, hunting. The platoon continues. Unconscious. Sullivan leads. O'Reilly behind. Chin in the middle. Antenna swaying. Radio transmitting every step, every breath, every whisper. The jungle listens. And the enemy, too. 3 kilometers away. Viet Cong unit monitors American frequencies. Soviet equipment captured. Trained operators. They detect open transmission. Hear sounds. Movement. Voices occasionally. Americans. Close. Vulnerable. The Viet Cong commander acts immediately. Signal triangulation. Portable radio allows approximate tracking. Direction determined. Distance estimated. Ambush planned. 3 squads mobilized, 40 fighters, heavy weaponry, positions prepared, absolute silence, perfect discipline, patient waiting, hunters awaiting prey to walk straight into trap, and second platoon walks, straight, unconscious, doomed. 15 minutes later, O'Reilly notices something. Instinct. Experience. Something wrong. Jungle too silent. Birds stopped singing. Monkeys disappeared. Only insects. Classic sign. Humans nearby. Enemy nearby. He raises closed fist. Stop signal. Platoon freezes. Sullivan crawls to him. O'Reilly whispers. Something wrong. Too quiet. Possible ambush. Sullivan agrees. Orders defensive formation. Men spread out. Seek cover. Weapons unlocked. Chun crouches. Radio still on his back. Antenna visible. Awaiting orders. Awaiting transmission. Awaiting death. Silence. Second drag. Nothing happens. Maybe paranoia. Maybe fatigue. Maybe just jungle being jungle. Sullivan decides to proceed. Cautiously. O'Reilly disagrees internally, but obeys. Commander decides. Platoon moves. Slowly. Weapons ready. Nerves tense. Death close. 2 minutes later, it happens. Hell opens. Bursts of AK-47 from 3 directions simultaneously. RPGs explode between trees. Heavy machine guns shred vegetation. The ambush is perfect, coordinated, devastating. 5 Americans fall in the first 3 seconds. Dead or gravely wounded. Screams. Blood. Chaos. O'Reilly shouts orders. Return fire. Seek cover. Move. Sullivan is on the ground, wounded in the leg, trying command. Chin throws himself behind fallen trunk. Radio crushing his back against wood. Handset still in hand. Channel still open. Transmitting everything. Screams. Explosions. Agony. Everything. The platoon tries to react. Impossible. Fire comes from all sides. Viet Cong positions perfectly placed. Firing angles calculated. Americans trapped in kill zone. 3 square meters where any movement attracts bursts. Chin tries to call support. Artillery. Helicopters. Anything. Shouts into handset. Coordinates. Emergency. Heavy contact. Command responds but signal weak. Interference. Chaos. Cannot get exact position. Cannot help. Cannot save. The combat lasts 23 minutes. Eternal. Brutal. Final. Americans fight desperately. Ammunition runs out. Wounded bleed. Dead accumulate. O'Reilly tries to organize retreat. Impossible. Surrounded. Cut off. Doomed. Chin keeps calling. Voice hoarse. Desperate. Pleading. Command hears but cannot reach. Helicopters cannot land. Artillery too close. Risk of friendly fire. Nothing can be done. Nothing. Gradually, fire diminishes. Not because Americans won. Because ammunition ran out. Because wounded can no longer shoot. Because dead do not respond. Viet Cong advances. Methodically. Professionally. Cruelly. Finishing wounded. Capturing survivors. Looting equipment. Sullivan is dead. Leg wound hit artery. Bled out in minutes. O'Reilly dead too. 3 shots to chest. Tried to cover non-existent retreat. Died doing duty. Chin still lives. Wounded. Leg shattered. Radio destroyed by shrapnel. Antenna broken. Channel finally closed. Too late. He looks around. Bodies everywhere. Companions. Friends. Dead. 28 of 32. For survive. Captured. Including Chun. Dragged by Viet Cong soldiers. Unbearable pain. Consciousness escaping. Last vision. Broken radio antenna. Antenna that betrayed. Transmission that killed. Error no one noticed. Until too late. Until everyone was dead. Until only 4 remained. Prisoners. Destined for years of captivity. Torture. Suffering. Unlikely survival. Chun passes out. Darkness takes over. The battle is over. Second platoon is over. Everything is over. 6 hours later, American helicopters finally arrive. Find combat zone. Silent. Empty. Only bodies. 28 dead Americans. All stripped of equipment. Weapons taken. Identification removed. Only bodies. Silent witnesses of massacre. Recovery team works in shock. Veterans who saw everything cry. Commanders at distant bases receive reports. Investigation initiated immediately. What happened? How such perfect ambush? How did Viet Cong know exactly where, when, how? Technicians examined radio recovered from Chun. Destroyed but functional enough for analysis. They discover the flaw. Transmit button jammed. Channel open. Continuous transmission. Recordings reviewed. Horror. Everything was transmitted. Position. Movements. Plans. Everything. Viet Cong did not need to guess. Just listen. Americans transmitted their own death. Involuntarily. Unconsciously. Fatally. The conclusion is brutal. Clear. Undeniable. A mistake. A jam button. An accidental signal. Expose entire platoon. A loud, perfect ambush. Caused 28 deaths. For captured. Complete disaster. And no one was at fault. Not Chun. Not Sullivan. Not O'Reilly. Just mechanical failure. Minuscule probability. Extreme bad luck. War. Always war. Killing through the smallest details. Punishing the most careful. Destroying the most disciplined. Because in the jungle in Vietnam, in 1968, survival does not depend only on skill, courage, preparation. It depends on luck. And on that day, 2nd Platoon ran out of luck. The 4 survivors spent 3 years in prisoner camps. Torture, starvation, disease, isolation. Chun lost his leg. Infection, lack of treatment, primitive amputation. He survived. The other 2 did not. Died in captivity. Dysentery, malaria, giving up. Only Chun and 1 colleague returned in 1971. Prisoner exchange. Thin, broken, but alive. Chun spent years in military hospitals. Surgeries, physical therapy, psychological treatment, severe PTSD, constant nightmares, survivor's guilt, depression, suicide attempts. Eventually, he stabilized, married, children, normal life, apparently, but always carrying weight, not of radio, of 28 dead, of accidental transmission, of error that was not error, just bad luck. He never spoke publicly, refused interviews, rejected honors, lived quietly until 2003, when he finally agreed to testify for documentary about technical failures in war. Sitting, old, 65 years, gray hair, tired eyes, visible prosthesis, he told the story. Weak voice, long pauses, occasional tears. I did not know. No one knew. The radio betrayed. And everyone died. 28 men. Because button jammed. How much is life worth? How much is millimeter of metal worth? War answers. Worth everything. Worth nothing. Only luck decides. Chun died 2008. 69 years. Heart attack. Family said it was peaceful. Finally at peace. Maybe. Hopefully. The PRC 25 radio was retired from service years later, replaced by safer models. Flaw corrected. Too late for 2nd Platoon. Too late for 28. Chen's equipment, recovered and repaired, today sits in Military Museum Fort Benning, Georgia. Glass display case. Explanatory plaque. PRC 25 radio. Vietnam 1968. Mechanical failure caused accidental transmission. Exposed entire platoon. Resulted 28 killed. For captured. Reminder. War kills through smallest details. Technology saves. Technology betrays. Always check equipment. Always distrust perfection. Always remember that life depends on millimeters. And millimeters fail. Visitors stop. Read. Some understand. Others pass. Veterans remain longer. Look at radio. Remember own equipment. Own failures. Own luck. And give thanks. For having had luck. For button not jamming. For signal not betraying. For having returned. Unlike 28. Who did not return. Who will never return. Who remain. In Vietnamese jungle. In memory. In eternal warning. That war does not forgive. That technology does not guarantee. That luck decides everything. And on that April day in 1968, 2nd Platoon, Delta Company, ran out of luck. The accidental signal. Exposed platoon. Sparked disaster. Killed 28. Captured 4. Ended everything. Because button jammed. Just that. Millimeter. Mechanics. Death. War. Always war. Killing through details. Forever.